Hey there, it's Rachel Mullins, the host of Hashtag No Filter Fridays on Public House Media.
This is Liz Colburn, host of The Morning Uplift here on Public House Media. Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media. Once you are done with this episode, I hope you'll come back and check out my show, The Morning Uplift, where we talk about finding your beauty in the journey. A new show comes out twice a month on the first and third Mondays. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so you never miss an episode of The Morning Uplift. Thank you again for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
The latest headlines.
The Houston Astros, the defending World Series champions, got better adding Garrett Cole.
The insightful interviews.
Rick Saratella, NFL Draft Bible. With how much emphasis is put on the position, yet how many over the last couple of years we've had questions. Why do we put such an emphasis on drafting a quarterback number one overall?
The bottom line is there's not enough good quarterbacks to go around. And I think with the new CBA, it's really a low-risk gamble now. If you look at the playoff teams, the common denominator, good quarterback play.
The hottest takes.
I think the guy to blame is the one guy who hasn't left yet. I think Russell Westbrook is one of the bigger problems in Oklahoma City.
Can all be found on Press Row.
Broadcasting is part of the Public House Media Network.
Here's your host.
It doesn't matter what your name is.
Christian Heimel.
Once again, welcome on Press Row. Broadcasting is part of the Public House Media Network. Christian Heimel here with you, as always, broadcasting to you on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. We're on Stitcher.com, Spreaker.com, of course, iHeartRadio, and as always, thephmedia.com. Got a great show for you ahead today. Your listener questions, as always. We'll dive into that. We'll dive into week one of the NFL, preview week two just a little bit. But we're really going to touch on just one of the weirdest situations I think we've ever seen in the National Football League. And it's coming out of the Steel City, a place that realistically should be a Super Bowl favorite for a lot of people. I mean, the Steelers should be the favorite in the AFC North. They should win the AFC North by a considerable margin. I don't care that the Bengals, weren't able to beat the Colts. I don't care that the Ravens were able to demolish the Bills in week one. But the Steelers are far and away the best team in the AFC North, if not the second best team in the AFC behind the New England Patriots. Maybe even better than the Patriots. But they're in a situation right now that just envelops the word weird. Le'Veon Bell, arguably the best running back in the game right now, is giving up close to $900,000 to prove a point. A week he's giving that up. Just to prove a point. To prove that he knows his own worth, that the Steelers don't, and that, if the Steelers don't want to pay him or don't, he's not going to take a toll on his own body so that he can make his own money. When guys like Todd Gurley, Aaron Donald, Kirk Cousins, Aaron Rodgers, Odell Beckham are getting guaranteed money, Le'Veon Bell believes he should get that too. He's not wrong. That's the thing about this. He's not wrong. But his teammates now are having issues, and that's what's making this even tougher for the Steelers, a team that is now 0-0-1 after week one in the NFL, tying the Cleveland Browns in week one in what was just a piss-poor, terrible game all the way around. Mike Tomlin, I've said this multiple times, I believe is one of the most overrated coaches in the NFL. His play calling baffles me at times. When that team was leading by a touchdown in the fourth quarter, he threw 3 passes. 2 of them Roethlisberger sailed, and one was a pass into the flat to Antonio Brown that got 2 yards, a 3-and-out. The Browns get the ball back, tie the game up, force overtime. In those kind of conditions, it made 0 sense when James Conner was running tremendously. So we'll dive into that with Mike Asti of Pittsburgh Sports Live and 93.7 The Fan in Pittsburgh about this Le'Veon Bell situation, about the Steelers in general, and discuss all of that. We'll also, as mentioned, get to your listener questions as well. But want to mention is, this is one of the things. Baseball is America's pastime, but it is no longer America's favorite sport. Football has far and away taken that. And I accept that. I understand it. But you're missing some phenomenal baseball and pennant races here in mid-September. You're seeing the Red Sox, who have already clinched a playoff spot and have 100 wins for just, I believe, the 6th time in franchise history, the first time since 1946 with 100 wins. The Cleveland Indians are 15, 16 games ahead of Minnesota in their division and going to clinch by the end of the weekend. You've got a great race between Houston and Oakland in the AL West. The Braves, a team a year ahead of what everybody expected, running away with the National League East right now. Philadelphia has really fallen off. Great race in the Central between the Cubs, the Brewers, as well as the Cardinals. And then out west, you've got the Rockies, the Dodgers, and the Diamondbacks all within 3 games of each other. The wild card race in the National League might be the most entertaining race possible. And you've got still 2 division races that are going to be with 3 teams less than 4 games apart right now, with still 2 weeks to play the regular season. You're missing some tremendous baseball if you're not paying attention right now to the pennant race. And I know a lot of you, I get it. I'm part of the old guard, I guess, who still believes that baseball is the best representation of America, and or believes that it's the best possible place for America. But it's so much fun to watch this in September. Juan Soto, even though his team is out of it, is putting up great numbers. You've got the way that some of these teams are playing. Alex Bregman is doing historic things. No third baseman ever has had 100 RBIs, 100 runs, and 50 doubles. No third baseman ever. You got Trevor Story, the first shortstop in I believe, history with 30, 30, and 20. I mean, it's incredible to see what is going on right now. And if you're ignoring it because of football, you're missing some great stuff. You really are. So I really hope you tune in and you'll watch some of the last few games of the regular season and get ready for the postseason, because what's happening with the Cubs and the Brewers right now is going to be fun. Arizona and Colorado is great. And that wild card race in the National League is going to be so much freaking fun. I really cannot wait. It's going to be a blast. There's so much to talk about. The Red Sox, again, are going for a franchise record in terms of actual wins. They're not going to get to the all-time record of 117 wins. They would have to win every game from now on just to tie that mark. They'd have to win 16 straight to be able to do that, but they're on a historic pace for their own franchise. And then the Yankees, who, if not for the Red Sox winning 100 games, the Yankees would be running away with the best record with 90 wins. So this is a great season for baseball, and I really hope you guys are kind of tuning in and checking it out. Still a long way to go before the postseason in the National Football League. Week 1, in my opinion, is just Week 5 of the preseason. You cannot win a championship in Week 1. I don't believe that you can lose a championship in Week 1. Certain injuries have proven otherwise. Greg Olsen out for the year. Delaney Walker out for the year. Those two really obviously hurt. Jeremy Hill out for the Patriots as well. But there's still plenty to get to in the NFL. You got another 4 months of this, guys. I mean, you really can't freak out that much. I'll address some of these overreactions at the end of the show. But when we return, Mike Asti, Pittsburgh Sports Live, 93.7 The Fan in Pittsburgh. He's going to join us to talk about the Steelers, their local reaction to their tie with Cleveland in Week 1, and the latest on the Le'Veon Bell situation. When does he think Le'Veon Bell might actually show up? He has until Week 11 to do so. But when does Mike think that arguably the best running back in the league shows up to play here this season? It's all coming up next. You're on Press Row, broadcasting as part of the Public House Media Network.
Want to be part of the show? Go to Facebook and search Press Row Podcast Public House Media, or find us on Twitter and Instagram at Press Row PHM. You can also email the program, pressrowphm@gmail.com.
Hi, this is Baxter Colburn, host of the Verse of the Day podcast here on Public House Media. Once you're done with this episode, I hope you'll come check out my show, Verse of the Day, where we take a look at real-world experiences and applications to one Bible verse every Monday through Friday as we get an idea of what it looks like to be a little bit better of a Christian and how we can make this world a better place, one verse at a time. I hope you'll join me every single Monday through Friday right here on Public House Media. And I hope you'll subscribe by going to Apple Podcasts or wherever you find good podcasts as well. Once again, thanks for tuning in to the following broadcast here on Public House Media.
This is Press Row with Christian Heimel, a Public House Media podcast.
Welcome back on Press Row, everybody. Christian Heimel here with you, broadcast as part of the Public House Media Network. One of the more interesting games over the weekend, Steelers and Browns in that tie, the first ever tie on opening weekend, I think in over 40 years in the NFL. Of course, no Le'Veon Bell for the Steelers, which just makes the situation even weirder. To help us try to make sense of it all, Mike Asti, program director, lead host of Pittsburgh Sports Live. You can also catch him on 93.7, The Fan in Pittsburgh. Mike, thanks a lot for the time.
No problem, man. Happy to do it.
And, Mike, if you could, kind of give us the local reaction to this past weekend. I know disappointing result, but sloppy weather, blowing that fourth quarter lead. What was the reaction in Pittsburgh to this past weekend's tie?
Well, the reaction is kind of what you would figure it would be in that situation. It was a loss. The reaction was kind of a loss from the fan base. You're leading by that much. It's a team that you usually beat. It's a team that didn't win any games the year before, despite having some hype around them in the off season. And even though you played close games with Cleveland last year and they actually almost won 2 of those, you still don't figure to blow a 2-touchdown lead. You don't figure 6 turnovers. You don't figure 4 interceptions. And you don't figure that if you get to overtime, your clutch kicker who you just re-signed to a big deal in Chris Boswell would miss what could have been the game-winning kick. So the surroundings around Pittsburgh and the fan base was as if they lost the game. And that was kind of reiterated by Mike Tomlin in his weekly press conference that not only the fans feeling like it was a loss, he handled it as if it kind of was a loss and that they needed to be better and that was unacceptable football, making no excuses. So it doesn't count as a loss, but it's about as much of a loss without actually losing a game as you can get.
So, Mike, I mean, how much of this past weekend was blamed on, no Le'Veon Bell? How much of it was on Todd Haley, who now with the Cleveland Browns knows the system? How much of it was on, Mike Tomlin's play calling? Because I'll be honest, watching that game late in the contest, I was really confused by some of the play calling of the head coach. Where was the most blame put by Steelers fans this past week?
Yeah, Tomlin does confuse you throughout a year. I mean, there are certainly some perplexing play calls every now and then, especially as you get towards the end of games and trying to figure out timeouts. He's not usually the best with negotiating timeouts. But he does end up with 12, 13 wins most of the time, and last year actually won the most games he had in a single season before going in the playoffs, usually a playoff contending coach. So it wasn't as much around Tomlin, even though that's usually where criticism goes. It really, surprisingly, wasn't even that much about Todd Haley. That was a little bit more going into the game. Obviously, the connection's there, and Haley was a big scapegoat and blamed a lot for different issues with the offense and Ben Roethlisberger when he was with Pittsburgh. But most of it coming out of the game was, regardless of all of that, the team just overall didn't execute. And when you turn it over 6 times, most of the conversation was really about Big Ben not playing well, him getting some criticism with 4 picks, and the way the Steelers turned it over so often and missing the field goal and different penalties and 12 penalties over 100 yards. That type of football is going to usually lead to a loss against almost any team, and they were very lucky to actually not lose the game and end up with the tie. That was more of the conversation. And then, of course, most of the conversation separate from the games around the Steelers now is Le'Veon Bell. He was not there, obviously. And, again, from Mike Tomlin this week and from everyone we talked to around the Steelers, there is nobody, according to Mike Tomlin, himself, any of his coaches, any of his players, any of the communications department, PR staff, the equipment manager, anyone with the Steelers according to Tomlin, has had no communication with Le'Veon Bell or anybody in his camp in weeks. There's been no update from the Steelers in terms of any conversation with him, and it's very likely they're going without him for several weeks as he has now been moved off the depth charts for this game against Kansas City. That is becoming still a big conversation because, yes, Connor did play very well, but the other end of that is a concern. Can he handle a full season of 400-plus carries or even going to Week 10 with 200-plus carries after being injury-prone the last few years, even going back to Pitt? So that is a continued concern. And remember, Connor played well, very, very well actually, for his debut, a couple touchdowns, 135 yards. But he had a critical fumble that cost the Steelers points that if you put those points on the board, they would have won.
Speaking with Mike Asti, program director, lead host at Pittsburgh Sports Live, also on 93.7 FM The Fan in Pittsburgh. With Le'Veon Bell, I mean, this is just a weird situation. You've got arguably the best running back in the league who's been franchise tagged twice and doesn't show up for Week 1, giving up now, what is it, something like $900,000 a week just to prove a point to the Steelers front office?
Yeah, I think it's like $850 or something like that and some change. Yeah, well, pretty much. The weirdest thing about it, the Steelers team overall, and even the coaches, they were kind of mum about it. They always defended Le'Veon Bell, and you hear comments for about 2 years now, they're going to mess with another man's wallet. It's his business. We're not going to comment. We want him back. He's our teammate. Then once Le'Veon Bell missed Week 1, that totally shifted, and particularly his offensive line that's been blocking for him for several years through suspensions and through injuries, basically turned the corner and said, hey, we always were with him. We don't want to discuss his money, but they feel lied to that he told them, I'm not going to miss games because I want to win a championship, even if it's my last year as a Steeler. And now they're kind of turning on him a little bit since he now is missing games and already didn't appear in a game that was not a win. He threw up a little tweet. I don't know if you saw it after the game that something to the effect of, I didn't know there were ties, which that's hard to believe he didn't know there were ties because there were 2 of them last year in the NFL. So that seems some shade thrown at the Steelers, but he's not, I guess, too upset if they don't win with him not out there. And that's kind of turned things. There's a little bit of a kind of a shift in the feeling between the Steelers players and Le'Veon Bell right now. My feeling has been, I've taken some heat for this as well, at least among the fans on my show when I bring this up. A lot of what's happened in the NFL in terms of guaranteed money being presented to Todd Gurley or David Johnson or different running backs, even going to Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins, and Aaron Darnold with other positions, it's almost leading to be why Le'Veon Bell is not there. While they feel lied to that he wouldn't have missed games, he has said for 2+ years, if I don't get my market value and if I feel disrespected, I'm not going to play on the second franchise tag. I'm just not going to do it. I don't want to put more tread on my tires and risk more of my health and get in a car crash every play and then have less value to future teams. He's reiterated that, whether it be subtly or direct through his agent, for 2 years now. He sucked it up and played in the franchise tag last year. He made it clear he didn't want to do it again. They gave it to him anyway, which you could, I guess, kind of understand why they did, but he's kind of sticking to his guns. So it's not as much as he lied, or maybe, it doesn't feel like it's too surprising to me, even though the players feel lied to. And Todd Gurley getting $44 million guaranteed, even though he's younger, and you're looking at all this guaranteed money floating around. The Steelers offered him a lot per year and for 5 years, but Pittsburgh offered Le'Veon Bell $10 million guaranteed. He legitimately will not play for that little guaranteed money for anybody. I just don't see it. That is why he feels disrespected. It's 4 times less than somebody he feels he's better than.
Mike, I think you and I have the same exact opinion. I mean, this was basically the Steelers front office calling Le'Veon's bluff, and now he's got the full house, and they're stuck with 2 of a kind here. But Le'Veon has until Week 11 to report. Otherwise, he loses his free agency at the end of this year. When do you think Le'Veon Bell might actually show up and put on that Steelers uniform again?
Man, and to be honest with you, whether you cover the team or not, you're really guessing. There's nobody who can say they know that for sure unless it's Le'Veon Bell, his or his father or somebody like that. I mean, there's really no way of knowing. They might not even know his family. I'll guarantee this, of course, as I say this laughingly, he'll be there by week 11. I mean, he's not gonna miss the whole year, despite how that'll, put more tread in his tires. He's not gonna miss the whole year and lose this free agent season for sure. So he will report and sign this tag in week 11 at the very, very latest. If I had to guess, I always thought he wouldn't miss games, to be honest, because as you said, he's actually losing money now. He didn't get enough money offered in his eyes of guaranteed money. Now he's actually in the hole because he's losing game checks. So I didn't think he would do that. But if I had to guess, I'll give you a range of maybe around week 6, week 4 to 6 maybe. It's definitely not this week, obviously. It seems like it's going to need at least a week or two for the drama to dissipate and maybe for some communication to happen between Tomlin or the Steelers and him. But I would not be shocked at all if he waited all the way till week 11 now, because here's the reason why. It does not appear, from what I'm hearing from Tomlin or any of the players, that anybody with the Steelers, whether it be Mike Tomlin on down or even above him to management, any players in terms of Big Ben, Antonio Brown, anyone on the team, it does not appear anybody's going to reach out to him and call him on the phone or tweet him, slide in his DMs and say, hey, we need you. How can we get you here earlier? Because even if you want to go get your money somewhere else, let's get you this ring, because that's not guaranteed in the future anyway. I don't think that's going to happen anymore. The players have kind of turned on him. Now, I agree with you. It's a bit absurd for them to say he's lied to them, because you and I know that he was saying he's going to miss games, so I don't know how they feel lied to. But he was telling them things behind closed doors, I guess, that he wasn't going to miss games, and they feel lied to. So I don't believe anybody with the Steelers is going to reach out to him anymore. And if he's waiting for that, that's not going to happen, and then he's going to wait until week 11. It's going to have to be that he'll eventually make the first move and doesn't want to lose any more money. And I think his breaking point might be kind of midway through that period before week 11, say around week 4 to week 6 or 7. But I just don't see anyone with the Steelers reaching out. I think they're not going to blink now, because the problem you have here, the Steelers and Bell now both agree they're parting ways after the season, even if they would win the Super Bowl, because there's no way they're going to get to his guaranteed money offer, and they feel insulted now at Bell's camp. So this is it. And you could kind of understand both sides in terms of Bell doesn't want to risk his body for a team he's going to leave and then wants to get more money elsewhere, but the Steelers do need him to win, and you won't win with just one running back. And even if Connor plays well, Ridley, et cetera, they're question marks. So I would guess around week 4 to 6. I wouldn't be shocked if it's week 11. And I don't think the Steelers are going to be calling him. I think he's going to have to be the one to blink first now.
He's Mike Asti, Pittsburgh Sports Live. You can also catch him on 93.7 FM, The Fan, there in Pittsburgh. Mike, we appreciate the time, especially on such short notice, and good luck with the Kansas City Chiefs coming into town, especially with that offense, Tyreek Hill, and the rest of the crew there.
Yeah, Mahomes played well too in week 1, so it'll be interesting. And no problem, man. Happy to do it. I've been in your shoes before, so I know the time crunch, and always happy. As long as Le'Veon Bell's not around, or even when he gets there, the Steelers always are going to be a very interesting, fun team to cover, regardless of whether they win, lose, or tie. So thanks to Bell, he's best for business in a way. This has kind of been good, actually, for me.
All right, it's Mike Asti. We'll be back in just a little bit. We'll recap what Mike had to say, get to your listener questions as well, wrap up shop. Coming up next, you're on Press Row.
Listen to every episode and get the latest shows sent right to you. Subscribe to Press Row on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spreaker.com, and Stitcher.com. Or visit us online at www.thephmedia.com.
How's it going, everybody? This is Keith. and Katie, host of Coffee with Keith and Katie, here on Public House Media.
Thanks for listening to the following broadcast on Public House Media. When you're done here, I hope you'll check out our show, Coffee with Keith and Katie,
where we talk about our lives and relationship over a cup of coffee.
A new episode airs on Facebook Live every Monday and Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes so you'll never miss an episode of Coffee with Keith and Katie.
Thanks again for checking out the following broadcast on Public House Media.
This is Press Row with Christian Heimel, a Public House Media podcast.
Welcome back on Press Row here. Close up shop on this Thursday, September 13th, 2018. Christian Heimel here with you. Broadcasting as part of the Public House Media Network. Big thanks again to Mike Asti of Pittsburgh Sports Live for joining us. And you know, I mentioned in the interview, I completely agree with him. I think a lot of the issues behind the Le'Veon Bell situation can go back to the front office. I know his teammates are upset. I know they feel lied to, but a lot of this is the front office of the Steelers calling Le'Veon Bell's bluff, and he's got the better hand. And so, you know, he's going to wait. He knows what he's worth, what he believes he's worth. And if you look at the market value with what Todd Gurley got, what David Johnson got, and a couple of others, he's got that in his bag. He's got that on his side of things. So you can't be mad if you're a Steelers fan at Le'Veon Bell. You should be mad at the Steelers front office because twice now they've taken the best running back in the league and basically said, we're not going to pay you. We don't think you're worth it. And now you're going to have to see him, you know, maybe not play the first half of the season, if not more, and then you're going to have to watch him walk at the end of the year, and you're going to miss out on a championship. You really are. You're going to miss out on the best years of one of the best running backs ever because, you know, your front office was too stubborn to actually pay him, and that's a shame, you know, and it's a shame that his teammates are acting the way, his offensive line is acting the way that they did when James Conner scored. So we'll see how it all pans out. Get to some of your listener questions. As always, you can find us on social media, Twitter and Instagram handle at PressRowPHM. You can email the show, PressRowPHM@gmail.com, or find us on Facebook, Press Row by Public House Media. First question here, Jake in Pittsburgh wants to know who's more likely to lose their starting job, Le'Veon Bell or Jameis Winston. If I'm going to say it, I think both after week one. I think James Conner just played so well, and I think that would be the way the Steelers can kind of get Le'Veon Bell in early if they say, listen, you're not going to be the featured back. We'll get you in there on third down. We'll get you in, you know, limited reps, but James Conner is the primary back, and I think that's how they help. And then, listen, I don't care what anybody says. I don't care how old Ryan Fitzpatrick is. I don't care how talented Jameis Winston could be. Jameis Winston's had his opportunity to prove that he's a starting quarterback in the NFL, and guess what? He's not. He's not a starting quarterback. I don't care how much money you've put into him. Jameis Winston is not worth it. Ryan Fitzpatrick played phenomenal in the first year, and this might be the biggest overreaction of week one, but he played phenomenal in week one against a very good Saints defense on the road and dominated New Orleans. So we'll see what happens this week with the Saints. I know it's going to be an interesting one for them, but especially with Philly at home, the defending Super Bowl champs. But I mean, listen, after week 3 when Jameis returns, I would not be rushing him back in as the number one quarterback there in Tampa Bay. All right, let's see. Joe in New York, who do you think regrets not drafting Sam Darnold more, the Giants or the Browns? Look, this is one of the dumbest questions possible. I'm sorry. This is just dumb. The Browns made the right move. I mean, they're making the right move now. Whether they had Baker Mayfield or Sam Darnold as the number one overall pick, they wouldn't be starting. This is just what the Browns are doing. They've got Tyrod Taylor. They're fine with it for now. Will Baker play this year? Absolutely he will. Will he start? Probably. But I don't think they regret it at all. The Giants, I don't think they care. I don't think they didn't need to draft a quarterback. They didn't need to draft, Sam Darnold and have him sit behind Eli Manning for 2 more years. They didn't need to draft Saquon Barkley. I've said this multiple times. They should have drafted Quentin Nelson, the lineman out of Notre Dame. And then they could have gotten Sonny Michel or Nick Chubb or anybody else in the second round. The Giants didn't need Saquon Barkley, but they felt it was the best pick. It sold tickets. Saquon looked great in week 1. So I don't think either of them regret it at all. Jets fans are ecstatic. They're happy. But the Lions' defense is terrible. It's god-awful. Matt Patricia is not a good defensive coordinator. He's not going to be a good defensive head coach. So, I mean, I think the overreaction here is the fact that Sam Darnold's a Hall of Famer. That's the overreaction to Week 1, not the overreaction that, the Giants and the Browns both missed out on a Hall of Famer. I don't think that, just stop. I'm sorry. I think Sam Darnold's great. I think he'll be very good for the Jets, but both those teams ahead of him, the Browns and the Giants, made the right moves for their franchise. It's that simple. Last question here. Brandon in Texas wants to know, Jordan Spieth missing the Tour Championship, possibly going to get fined now because he doesn't meet a certain rule. What does this mean for the future of Jordan Spieth? Look, this is a weird rule. So the PGA requires that you play in 25 events a year. And Jordan, failing to make the Tour Championship, will play in 24. So he could get fined. The PGA does not announce fines or anything like that. But I think what this means more than anything else for Jordan is the fact that this was just a bad year. This was an embarrassing year for Jordan, one of the best players in the world, a kid who a couple of years ago we were talking about as the reincarnation of Tiger Woods. And in 23 events this year, he placed in the top 10 just 5 times. In 23 events, he ranked 32nd on the PGA money list at just under $2.8 million. He missed the cut 5 times. He didn't have a single win. His average is still good, but it wasn't good enough, and he played poorly down the stretch. I mean, you look at some of his tournaments, he did not play well. BMW, he had a poor showing of +3 on Sunday. Same thing at the Northern Trust. The PGA Championship, he competed, but not well enough. The Bridgestone Invitational, he had a 74 and finished 5 over in that tournament. It's unfortunate, but he just did not play well. Missed the cut at the U.S. Open. Missed the cut at the Memorial. Finished 3rd at the Masters. Great. 9th at the U.S. Open, but 12th at the PGA Championship. It just wasn't the Jordan Spieth that we're used to. So I think what this year does more than anything else is it's a wake-up call to one of the great young talents in golf to get his act together for 2019, because it's unfortunate, and golf needs a player like Jordan Spieth who's so talented and so young and will be around for the next 15, 20 years if he's able to get his act together. That's the biggest thing, and that's the biggest hope. That's all you can really ask for. So, really appreciate you guys joining us here on the program this week. As always, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at PressRowPHM. Email the show, PressRowPHM@gmail.com. Or you can find us on Facebook, Press Row by Public House Media. I mentioned at the top of the show, guys, seriously, last 2 weeks of the season for Major League Baseball, enjoy it. It is so much fun. The races are going to be great. Even if you're not a fan of those teams, just tune in to be able to watch and just see how some great do-or-die playoff baseball is happening. I really hope you do. Big thanks to Mike Asti as well, Pittsburgh Sports Live, for breaking down the Le'Veon Bell situation and the Steelers as well. They take on the Chiefs at home this week. Tough road to hoe there for a Steelers defense that couldn't stop the Browns from putting up 14 points in the second half. So, big thanks to Mike Asti. Big thanks to you guys as well. Always appreciate it. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spreaker.com, a whole lot more, and, of course, thephmedia.com. I'm Christian Heimel, and until next week, we will see you on Press Row.